I never meant to trespass into his world. I only meant to give something back. The folder in my hands felt heavier than paper should. A simple brown file, sealed with a strip of black tape and stamped with the words, Kessler Defense Technologies. It had no business being in my apartment, let alone in my trembling grip as I stood outside the mirrored glass of their Manhattan tower. My roommate, Lila, had left it on our kitchen counter 2 nights ago. "Just hold on to this for me," she'd said, her voice too light. I should have asked questions then, but I didn't. And by the time I realized what was inside, schematics, emails, internal security codes, it was too late. So I came here to return it. To fix what she'd done before anyone realized I'd touched it, the lobby security guard looked up as I approached. "Appointment?" My throat tightened. "No, I found something that belongs to Mr. Kessler's company. I need to return it." He frowned. "Mr. Kessler doesn't see visitors without an appointment." "I don't need to see him," I said quickly. "Just someone from his office, but fate, or something crueler, had other plans." Because in that exact moment, the elevator doors opened behind the guard, and he stepped out. Caleb Kessler. I'd seen his face on magazine covers and tech journals, even in congressional hearings broadcast on muted TVs at the diner where I worked part-time. 45 years old, self-made billionaire, founder of the most advanced defense technology firm in the world. Sharp gray suit, sharper eyes, storm gray, focused, assessing, and when those eyes fell on me, they stayed. "What's this about?" he asked, his voice even, low, the kind of voice that didn't need volume to command. The guard straightened instantly. "Sir, she says she's here to return." I held out the file, fingers trembling. "This. I think it was stolen from your company. I'm trying to return it before it causes trouble." His gaze dropped to the folder. A flicker of something, recognition? Suspicion? Crossed his face. He took it carefully, his gloved hand brushing mine. Even that brief touch felt like static. "Where did you get this?" The question sliced through the air. "My roommate," I said. "She left it in our apartment. She's gone now. I didn't know what it was until I opened it. I swear I didn't read everything, just enough to know it wasn't hers. Come with me." I hesitated. "Wait, Now!" There was no mistaking that tone. It wasn't cruelty, it was precision. The same control that must have built his empire from scratch. I followed him into the elevator, my pulse matching the hum of machinery around us. We rode up 47 floors in silence. I could see our reflections in the mirrored panel, a man carved from restraint, and a woman trying to hold her world together. When the doors opened, I stepped into an office that felt like another planet. Glass walls, digital maps, and a panoramic view of the city washed in golden daylight. He set the folder on his desk, untaped it, and flipped it open. For several long seconds he said nothing. His jaw tightened as his eyes scanned the pages. Then he looked up. "You know what this is?" I shook my head. "Not exactly. I didn't look at the technical stuff, just the company header. It's proprietary defense AI code, sensitive enough that its disappearance triggered a federal alert this morning." I froze. I know you didn't write this," he interrupted, voice calm but edged with steel. "But you walked in with stolen national security material. Do you understand what that means?" My breath caught. "Yes, but I didn't steal it. I just wanted to give it back. Please, I didn't even know." He exhaled, leaning back in his chair. The motion made him seem both powerful and tired, like a man who carried too much. "You're either the most naive accomplice I've ever met, or the most honest." I swallowed hard. Maybe both. Something flickered in his expression then, just a trace of warmth, quickly masked. He tapped the file. "Your roommate? Name?" "Lila Hendricks. She worked at the diner with me." He typed into a terminal on his desk. "No employee by that name in any of our records." "She's not from here," I said quickly. "She just moved in last month." The weight of silence settled between us. He studied me for what felt like forever, eyes unreadable. Finally, he said quietly, "You should have gone to the police." I didn't trust them, I admitted. Lila said people in uniforms were watching her. I didn't know who to believe. His gaze softened barely. "And you trusted me?" The question startled me. "No," I said honestly. "But I thought you'd want the truth more than anyone." For the first time, a ghost of a smile touched his lips. You might be right. He stood, moving toward the window. The sunlight outlined him, tall and broad-shouldered, the silver in his hair catching gold from the afternoon. When he turned back, his expression was all business again. Until we clear your involvement, you can't leave. The authorities will want a statement, and I need to verify your story. Can I go home? Not yet. The finality in his voice rooted me to the spot. I'll arrange a guest room upstairs, he added. You'll be safe here. No one outside this building knows you returned the files, and it's better that way. I wanted to protest, to say I had work, rent, a cat, but none of it felt real anymore. I didn't do anything wrong, I whispered. He met my eyes again, and for a moment, the fierce precision in him faltered. I know. Those 2 words loosened something inside me I hadn't realized was wound so tight. He pressed a button on his desk. Caroline, prepare the guest suite on 31. Miss Addie, I said. Addie Monroe. Miss Monroe will be staying temporarily. His assistant confirmed through the speaker. As he escorted me to the elevator, I risked one more glance at him. The suit fit him perfectly, tailored, austere, but there was a gravity beneath it, a loneliness that seemed to mirror my own. When the doors closed, I finally exhaled. That night, I sat in a suite larger than my entire apartment, staring out at the city lights. The skyline glittered like a field of stars, and I wondered how someone could live so high above the world and still look so isolated. I thought about the way his voice softened when he said I know, and how even in suspicion, he'd treated me with quiet dignity. Still, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed the chain of events over and over. Lila's nervous smile, the file on the counter, Caleb Kessler's piercing eyes. When the knock came at the door around midnight, I jumped. He stood there, no jacket now, sleeves rolled up, silver hair tousled slightly, fatigue lining his face. I didn't mean to wake you, he said, but I wanted you to know. We found surveillance footage. Your story checks out. Relief flooded me. So I can go home? He hesitated. Not yet. Whoever stole those files isn't done, and now they know your name. My breath caught. You mean, you're safer here, he said quietly. Until I find out who's behind this. I should have been terrified. Maybe I was, but beneath it, something else bloomed. Trust. Fragile and inexplicable. He looked at me for a long moment, as if weighing something. Then he added almost to himself, You did the right thing, Addie. Not many would. And before I could thank him, he turned and left, leaving the scent of cedar and clean linen in the air. As the door clicked shut, I realized my life had just split in two, the before when I was invisible, and the after, where a man like Caleb Kessler knew my name, and I was staying in his world now, whether I wanted to or not. The next morning, sunlight spilled through glass walls, catching on polished steel and soft cream upholstery. Everything gleamed, orderly, precise, like the man who owned it. I woke in the guest suite with that uneasy blend of awe and restlessness. For someone who'd always lived in modest rooms, surrounded by noise and neighbors, this silence felt foreign, too clean. Too still, a knock sounded. It was a young woman in a navy uniform smiling politely. Mr. Kessler asked me to bring you breakfast. I blinked. He did? Yes, ma'am. He said you might forget to eat. I almost laughed. Forgetting to eat had never been a problem for me, but the gesture stirred something warm in my chest. I sat by the window, eating toast while the city below stirred awake. Somewhere beneath the hum of elevators and phones, Caleb Kessler was already at work, solving problems only he could understand. By the time I ventured out, guided by quiet curiosity, I found him in a room lined with screens and blueprints. He was leaning over a digital projection, sleeves rolled again, shirt crisp white against tanned skin. His focus was absolute, until he sensed me. Morning, he said without looking up. Did you sleep? Not much. I didn't think you would. He tapped a key and turned toward me. His eyes looked softer today, though the sharp intelligence behind them never dimmed. You're safe here, but until we locate your friend, I'll need you to stay inside the building. Do you think Lila's part of something dangerous? He hesitated before answering. Yes. The word landed heavy. He gestured toward a seat across from him. Sit. There's something you might help me with. I sat, unsure if I belonged anywhere near his world. She used your Wi-Fi to upload an encrypted file, he said. We traced the attempt to your apartment, but not beyond. She knew someone was watching. She said people were after her. She wasn't wrong. He leaned back, eyes fixed on the skyline. I built this company on trust and innovation, but both have been exploited more times than I can count. The last time I trusted someone with full access, they sold my prototype overseas. Cost us 3 years of research. I didn't know what to say. He wasn't just giving me information. He was revealing a wound. I'm sorry, I murmured. He smiled faintly. You didn't do it, Addie. Still, I felt the ache in his words. The kind of betrayal that leaves you wary of everyone, even the innocent. As the hours passed, I found myself drawn into his rhythm. We went over employee logs, cross-checked timestamps, pieced together Lila's path through the digital maze. He explained terms patiently, his tone measured, never condescending. It was strange, sitting so close that I could feel the warmth of his arm as he typed, or hear the quiet rasp of his breathing when he leaned back in thought. There were moments when he'd pause mid-sentence, as if remembering I was there, and the edge in him softened. You're calm under pressure, he said once. Studying me. I'm terrified, I admitted. He smiled. You hide it well. That became our pattern. Shared silence, brief humor, unspoken understanding. By the second night, the tension had shifted. Not suspicion anymore, but something gentler, heavier. He brought dinner to the suite himself. I thought you might like something normal, he said, setting down takeout boxes from a quiet corner restaurant. No servers, no protocols, I smiled. You eat takeout? Occasionally. It reminds me I'm still human. He sat across from me at the low glass table. For a man known for commanding boardrooms and contracts worth billions, he ate like someone raised on discipline, measured, composed. Yet when he caught me watching him, he looked almost shy. Do you miss it? I asked softly. Being ordinary? His fork paused. Every day. Something in my chest ached. After dinner, he showed me the terrace, a wide expanse of stone and glass overlooking the river. The air was crisp, the city glowing below us. You built all this, I said, and still, you look lonely. He turned toward me, that unreadable expression flickering. Lonely is the cost of certainty. I don't think it has to be. He looked at me then, really looked. The distance between us wasn't measured in feet anymore, but in breaths. Addie, he said quietly, as though testing the sound of my name. You should be careful what you offer people like me. I'm not offering anything, I whispered. I just see you. He drew in a slow breath, the kind people take when they're fighting something they can't control. That's exactly what I'm not used to. A gust of wind brushed past, lifting strands of my hair. He reached out instinctively, fingers catching one before it touched my face. For a second, neither of us moved. The city lights reflected in his eyes. Gray turned silver. He let go first. You should get some rest. I wanted to say something, but the words stayed behind my teeth. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Every sound of the building felt heightened. The low hum of machinery, the muted echo of footsteps in distant halls. Around midnight, I heard movement outside the suite. A faint sound like a door closing too softly. I stepped into the hallway. Mr. Kessler? He was there, standing by the security console. The dim light cast shadows across his face. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. I heard something. Just me, he said gently. I run diagnostics myself when the servers are quiet. It's habit. Do you always work alone at night? He gave a small, humorless laugh. Always. I moved closer, drawn by something unspoken. That sounds lonely too, he met my gaze. I told you. It's the cost. There was silence between us then, but not the cold kind. More like the space before a confession. Why do you keep everyone at a distance? I asked softly. He looked past me, toward the window where dawn's first hint of light touched the skyline. Because the last time I didn't, people died. The words hit like a chill. I was developing an early prototype for a guidance AI. It malfunctioned during a demo flight. Pilot error, they said, but I know better. My code failed, he exhaled shakily. I live with that. His voice wasn't steady anymore. It was raw. I stepped closer. You can't carry that alone forever. He gave a faint, almost broken smile. Then why are you still here? Because you don't scare me, I said. He stared at me, eyes dark with something that wasn't authority anymore. Then quietly, most people are. For a heartbeat, the air thickened between us. His hand hovered near mine, not touching, but close enough to feel the warmth radiating. The moment stretched, fragile and electric. Then the console beeped, breaking the spell. An alert flashed across the screen. Unauthorized access attempt. External network. He snapped back into command, hands flying over the controls. They found the data line. I leaned in beside him. What do? We stopped them. Our shoulders brushed as he traced the source. For minutes we worked wordlessly, side by side, until the alert faded. Finally, he exhaled, tension melting from his frame. It's blocked. For now. I hadn't realized I was shaking until he turned toward me, his hand steady on my arm. You're safe, he said softly. I wasn't worried about me. His fingers tightened slightly. For a moment, something unguarded crossed his face. Gratitude, maybe, or something deeper. Then he stepped back, as if distance was the only way to breathe again. You should rest, he said. But before he left, he paused in the doorway, looking back once more. Addie, I don't think I've trusted anyone this quickly in a very long time. The words lingered long after he was gone. And as I lay awake, watching dawn spread across the horizon, I realized the truth I'd been avoiding. It wasn't just gratitude or safety drawing me toward him. It was something slow and certain. Something that scared me more than danger ever could. Because I was starting to care. And I suspected he already did too. By the third day, the building no longer felt like a fortress. It felt like a waiting room for something I didn't want to name. The investigation intensified. Federal agents called, employees were questioned, and layers of encrypted data peeled back like an onion of secrets. Through it all, Caleb barely slept. He worked with that relentless precision again, but I could see the wear in him now. The sleepless eyes, the quiet sighs when he thought no one was listening. I tried to stay out of the way, but every time I saw him cross the hall, I felt something tug inside me. Concern, yes, but more than that, a quiet understanding that he'd built his empire not for power, but to shield himself from ever feeling helpless again. That afternoon, I found him on the terrace, phone pressed to his ear, his tone clipped. No, I don't authorize a public statement until we know who's behind it. Containment first. When he hung up, he looked older somehow, not in years but in weight. They traced the breach, he said. A shell company overseas. But the signal originated here in the States. Someone inside our network, Lila? I asked. She's involved, he said. But she's not the core. She was used. The wind caught his hair, softening the sharp edges of his profile. They'll come for you, Addie. The person who recruited her won't want a loose end. I swallowed. Then let me help you. You already have. He turned toward me fully, and for a long moment, we just stood there. The city below us gleamed under pure daylight, and I felt the strange peace that came with danger shared, not faced alone. Then, unexpectedly, his hand brushed mine. Just a touch, but it held the weight of everything we hadn't said. Addie, he said quietly, if you could go back, before any of this, would you still walk into my office that day? I think I was always meant to, I said. Something flickered in his eyes, something like surrender. But before he could speak, a shrill alarm broke through the air. The building lights dimmed, replaced by red strobes. A voice over the intercom. Security breach on level 47, his office. Caleb was already moving. Stay here. Not a chance. I ran after him, We took the service elevator, descending in a blur of motion. When the doors opened, chaos met us. Systems offline, screens flickering, the main glass wall shattered inward, and in the center of it all, Lila. Her blonde hair was tangled, her expression desperate. "Addie, I didn't want this," she cried. "They said they'd hurt my brother if I didn't deliver the files." Caleb's security team surrounded her, but she held a small data drive in one trembling hand. "Give it to me," he said, voice calm but edged with danger. She hesitated. "They're watching me. If I don't, I'll protect you," he said. But before she could move, the glass behind her cracked with a deafening pop. "A bullet hole! Get down!" Caleb shouted. He pulled me behind the desk, covering me with his body as security swarmed. The room filled with shouting, gunfire, glass raining like crystal shards. When it was over, the silence was unbearable. Lila was alive, shaken, crying, but the drive was gone, snatched in the chaos. Caleb's men swept the floor, radios crackling. He looked at me, his breathing uneven. "You shouldn't have followed me." "I wasn't leaving you," I said. His jaw clenched, but there was no anger, only something like fear. "You don't understand what that means to me." I reached out, brushing the dust from his sleeve. "Then explain it." He sat back, the strength seeming to drain out of him. "All my life I built walls to keep people out. Control is safer than hope. But then you walked in, shaking, terrified, and you still did the right thing. And I realized I'd forgotten what courage looked like." He looked at me, eyes searching. "You remind me that I don't have to fight everything alone." Something inside me broke open at that. The loneliness in his voice, the honesty. "Caleb," my voice faltered. "You don't have to." The air between us changed then. No grand gestures, no words. Just the silence of two people seeing each other completely for the first time. He reached up, his hand trembling slightly as it touched my cheek. The warmth of his skin, the steadiness beneath it. It felt like a vow. "I don't deserve this," he murmured. "Yes, you do," I said. "You deserve someone who sees the man behind the empire." He closed his eyes, forehead resting against mine. That was all. No rush, no claim, just stillness, honesty, and the soft kind of trust that feels like a heartbeat shared. Hours later, when the building settled and security declared the threat contained, he insisted I rest. But I stayed near him instead, helping sort reports, soothing the tension from the air with quiet company. By evening, the sun spilled gold through the broken window. He turned toward me, looking both exhausted and alive. "I should send you away," he said quietly. "Keep you safe." "But you won't." He gave a faint smile. "No, I won't." We stood by the glass wall overlooking the sunset. The world outside kept spinning, indifferent to what had happened. But between us, everything had shifted. "I need to tell you something," I said softly, "before you think I'm stronger than I am." He frowned gently. "Addie, I hesitated, heat rising in my face. "I've never been with anyone. Not because I was waiting for some perfect person, but because I wanted to feel safe first, to trust." His expression changed. Not surprise, not judgment. Just tenderness, quiet and profound. "Then I'll never make you feel unsafe," he said. The sincerity in his tone wrapped around me like a promise. He reached for my hand again, fingers lacing with mine, and for the first time, I didn't feel small beside him. I felt seen. There was no rush to the moment that followed, just the slow, certain awareness that the distance between us had vanished for good. When his lips brushed mine, it wasn't hunger, it was gratitude. The kind of kiss that begins where fear ends. The rest was quiet. The way daylight faded through glass, the hum of the city far below, the steady beat of his heart against mine. When he whispered my name, it sounded like peace. Later, when I woke wrapped in the warmth of morning light and the sound of him typing softly nearby, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. He looked up, smiling faintly. "The data's recovered. The people behind the breach are under investigation. You're free, Addie." I sat up slowly. "And you?" He paused. "I think I finally am too. He crossed the room and knelt beside me, his hand finding mine again. You could go back to your old life. Quiet, safe. Or you could stay. Help me rebuild what was almost lost. No obligations, no expectations. I looked at him, at the man who had once seen the world as equations and risk, and now looked at me like I was the only variable that mattered. I think I want to stay, I said softly. He exhaled, relief flickering into something brighter, joy, cautious and new. We spent the rest of the day in sunlight, not talking much, just being. The danger had passed, the secrets untangled, but the quiet between us felt sacred. As evening fell, I stood at the terrace rail, watching the city lights return. Caleb came up beside me, his suit jacket brushing my shoulder. You said once that loneliness was the cost of certainty, I reminded him. He nodded, smiling faintly. And now? Now I think certainty isn't worth that price. He looked at me, eyes warm and steady. Then maybe it's time I stopped paying it. I turned toward him, and he drew me close. No urgency, no claim, just peace. The world below kept shimmering, alive and endless. But for the first time, I felt I'd found a place to belong. Not behind walls, not under protection, but beside someone who finally trusted again. And as the last light faded, his voice was quiet against my hair. Thank you for walking into my office, Addie Monroe. I smiled. Thank you for letting me stay. And that was how it ended, not with grand declarations, but with a promise so soft it could only be heard in silence. Love, I realized, wasn't about rescue or risk. It was about recognition, and in that recognition, we both found our way home. Loved, she tried to return stolen research files? If this story touched your heart, subscribe for more slow-burn emotional romances every week. Comment your favorite moment between Addie and Caleb. I read everyone. Share this story with someone who believes love is built on trust, not perfection.